We got some lights on.
Welcome back, everyone. How's everyone's week been?
It's been good.
Pretty good.
So many smiles, nods, approval. Good.
I mean,
Good.
I guess we're just all waiting for some interesting stories.
Hit us, Ron.
Me?
Who
Oh. What
wants to talk about their week? Is that a hand, Alex?
I can talk about my week.
I'd love to hear about your week, Joe.
Dude.
It's been really great. I've gotten a lot of work done really joyfully. Today I got to do one of my favorite things, which is like sawing up wood and moving logs, just like pure manly energy there, using the chainsaw.
Yeah.
And I've met a woman recently, and I have a date this weekend, so that's kind of exciting too.
Great success.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Good for you,
What's
Joe.
her name? What does she do?
Her name is Cindy. She's a yoga instructor. She lived in India for 4 years and is like a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner. So I think it's a good matchup. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, and she's really into self-sufficiency. She has a little farm herself. So yeah.
The farmers hooking up.
Yeah. Did you find her on farmersonly.com?
French farmers only.
Yeah, she is French too, but her English is good, thankfully, because of living in India for so long. So that's helpful.
Hey, Parker.
Hey there.
Hey, Parker.
Good to see you guys.
Hey, Parker. Hey. Yeah, we haven't seen you in a little while. Good to have you back, brother.
Yes, it's great to see you all.
Good. So, Joe, I was just thinking to myself, Debbie and I had a lovely weekend together, and I was thinking of how wonderful it is to be with a woman who's Sangha. And I was thinking of all of us, actually, and how it's the perfect match. It's the perfect match. So
I think we're a perfect match too, Dan.
Sorry?
I think we're a perfect match too, Dan.
If Debbie ever moves on, Ron, I'll give you a call.
Put a pin in that.
Get in line, Ron.
Yeah, can you live with being second?
Whoa.
Put a pin.
Get in line, Ron.
Oh, wow.
So good to have Abby here. Sorry?
What'd you say, Dan?
I said it's so good to have Abby here.
Yeah, I finally have arrived.
Join the gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, I've little doubt that your date will go wonderfully. And if the compatibility is there, well, jackpot.
Either way, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean,
make a new friend.
When Debbie and I... Sorry, Joe, go on.
I was going to say, just to make a new friend, you know. It's always nice to meet Sangha, you know.
Hey, that's where me and Deb started. You know, we had that big common interest, and so it made sense to meet up. And so there's an actual reason for getting together beyond carnal pleasures, which is a great place to start.
Yeah, I think friendship is the key that I've learned in my life about relationships, is just building friendship and trust and enjoying being around.
Agree.
Yeah.
I feel like a big problem is when people try to put labels on things.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes it ends up turning it into something that it's not.
For example, is Ron my lady in waiting or my side bitch? It just causes
Yeah.
problems.
You could say I'm just a friend.
Just a friend. That's a nice diplomatic label, isn't it? Yeah. Who else has got something exciting to tell us? Oh, absolutely right, Rick.
Very,
Yes.
very accurate.
The minds are label makers, yeah.
But not always those fun label machines that you can screw around with and nothing bad happens.
You kids, all the kids are using label makers these days. It's the hip thing to do. With the red tape.
Yeah.
I think another thing that happens with relationships that's related to practice is when we mistake our happiness as being dependent on another person or dependent on the relationship that we are in, or we blame our like anger or ill will on the significant other, which happens. And yeah.
Well, relationships, they are dependency. I mean, that's what they are. If you don't take happiness from a relationship, you would not go to a relationship in the first place. It doesn't make sense.
Oh, of course, but it's not about the dependency, because the dependency implies an attachment to the other person. Like, like the problem with that is a lot of people end up getting into relationships for the wrong reasons. They try finding someone who will complete them, so to speak. When the truth is, if you don't feel complete on your own, I don't think you're in a position to be entering a relationship.
If you're not complete on your own, if you are complete on your own, you would not go to a relationship in the first place. I mean, there's a need for happiness from someone else. I mean, you have to admit it.
Of course. I mean, humans are social creatures. I don't deny that, but that's also where the label making comes in, and you're turning it into something it's not. Because this one person gives you happiness, people are able to become dependent on them like a drug. And that's when it's not healthy.
The best way I've heard to think about it is 3 relationship paradigms. This actually comes from a Mormon author that some of you might have heard of, a guy called Stephen Covey, who writes about 3 relationship paradigms: the codependent relationship, which we're all familiar with, the independent relationship, where each partner has their shit together and they kind of operate pretty much by themselves, and then they come together only for those things that they can't get for themselves, for example, sex. But the best relationship paradigm is the interdependent relationship. And so here we have a Mormon using a very Buddhist word. The interdependent relationship is where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and the 2 partners realize that they are stronger together. And this is why it's so great when Sangha get together, because then it's, well, heaven realm.
Well said.
And rain. Is that about it? Is that you who typed that, Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that another way of speaking about what I just...
Mm-hmm. That's just cutting right to it. Right? Dependence, independence, and interdependence. Yeah.
Right.
So now I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think relationships are possible between people who, like, one is into the Sangha and one isn't? Or would there be like an imbalance there of sorts?
I can speak to that.
Right.
Oh, let's hear it.
Because that's certainly my situation. Right? So I think it comes down to interference, maybe. Like, my wife and I don't interfere with each other's spiritual or religious practices. And in that way, then we're allowed to pursue our own directions. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're pulling away from each other.
Right.
And again, there's always going to be this like having to understand the communication styles and all kinds of things related to the personality and ego, regardless of which spiritual practice, if any, that the person follows. And so I find that it's useful for me to put into practice all of these different things, regardless of which school she follows, as long as she isn't forcing me to walk her path, then there's been no issue with it at all, not at all. So yeah, right. So to me, it certainly is possible, because again, when you start clearing away the categories, you realize, wow, these types of understanding one another through this interdependence is the same, whether she's labeling herself as A or B. So yeah,
right. Girls like that don't come around very often.
What's that?
I was saying girls like that don't come around very often.
I don't know, but I got me one, so that's cool.
I mean, to be fair, you've also had more time to look than me.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, Ron, you're still pretty young, and my experience is the younger you are, the more likely it is to still be in a kind of more or less fixed frame there.
No, I know exactly what you're saying, because I am in that exact state of mind that you're talking about right now, but I've been working on it. And I don't know, for my previous experiences in my generation, it's hard enough as is to find a girl who's like nice and understanding and compassionate. You throw Sangha on top of that, almost seems like I'm dreaming.
But you're in the right position, which is you're very happy.
Yeah, and I have high standards as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you don't have to find someone who's compassionate and like good. You can be compassionate yourself. You can be like.
Right, it's about these qualities. It's more about the qualities than the labels anyway. That's really fundamental. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just using those like specific qualities as an example, but like I just have pretty high standards, and I'm not gonna settle for a girl that doesn't meet them.
Well, it's interesting, right? So
that's what I mean.
I think that what we call high standards actually is more accurately just standards. I think we're kind of raised into this idea that everyone ought to pair up.
It's just that I hold myself in a very high regard, and I wouldn't pick a partner that I would hold at less high of a regard.
Well, that's one way of saying it. What I was pointing to is I think it's I don't think there's anything sinister. McDonald's standard.
Now you're just throwing shots.
No, it's not personal. I'm just saying, standards. It doesn't mean high standards. Standards are standards.
Yeah, I'm just considering, where's the middle? If we're talking about having high standards for finding a partner, what's standards, and then what's low standards? And I'm just thinking about the way that most folks tend to be engaged in serial monogamy. I think that actually what's typically the case is that the standards are low because people don't want to be alone.
Yeah, and that is true.
Where you're at, Ron, is where I would like to see more folks. Because intimacy is, in a sense, special. I can't think of a better word than that. Even if only for the fact that there are risks involved. There's a risk of pregnancy. There's a risk of disease. So why wouldn't we be selective regarding who we're going to be intimate with?
Well, see, that's actually the thing. If you look at it from a biological standpoint, technically only the women are supposed to be selective. That's how it is in nature. The men have the approach method, and the women have the filtering method. So, that's why they say if a guy can sleep with a lot of girls. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Is that true for all species?
I mean, you don't see like all the birds and stuff doing like their dances. You see the peacocks?
Certainly for the birds, yeah. I'm wondering about mammals specifically.
I mean, I would assume, every time I watch Animal Planet, it's always the guy animals fighting for the dominance, and the big dog gets the first pick of the girls.
Yeah. That's standards.
Yeah, like we've grown so like used to our modern day society that we sometimes forget how biologically hardwired our brains really are. At the end of the day, it's just a matter of males are trying to find anything they can to sleep with, and the women are supposed to be filtering out the options to pass down the best genetics to the next generation.
That sounds certainly like it maps onto lots of animal species. I'm interested as to whether it's all. And certainly all of that stuff is in play for us humans.
I mean, I can give examples of as being a farmer, because like there's certain animals that I've had, like ducks, for instance, they can only partner with like 2 to 4 females, whereas like a sheep, like a ram, can have like 40 generally. And then pigs, I mean, they can do up to like 9. Chickens do like 25 for one male. But ducks are the interesting one, where it's like, I mean, if you have like really more than like 3 ducks per male, they just won't do it with the other ones. Like that's just how it is, they. Yeah, so it's interesting. It's quite variable depending on the animal. Rabbits, yeah, they actually are like rabbits, and just do it all the time. They're hilarious. I had rabbits for a while. They're hilarious animals to have. They just have sex all day. It's like that's all they do.
Wow, lots of little buns then.
Yeah, and it's like we'd have little kids like visiting our farm, and like they were just always wanting to see the rabbits, and you're just like, oh god, like could they just stop for a second, please?
And then suddenly Farmer Joe's happened to give the kids the birds and the bees talk.
But this biology is kind of interesting. And then you have weird things like spiders, right? Where you have the male spider sometimes that gets like killed by the female, Yeah. And, yeah, there's weird stuff. But the cool thing about being a human is we can like have some control over this, and like you get to a point, I would say, Ron, where that like physical like thing that you're talking about, I don't know, I like that's kind of gone for me. Like it just is like totally unappealing to sleep with a bunch of women, like on just a physical level also.
Oh no, yeah, that's not what I'm just saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, look, like if a guy wants to sleep with a girl, he has to go out, he has to figure out how he's gonna basically convince her to sleep with him, and he has to take her out to dinner, do this and do that. If a girl wants to sleep with a guy, she can just do it. Like, 9 out of 10 times, girl can text a guy, she'll be like, hey, come over, and I'd be like, okay, and that girl could send that same text to 10 other guys, and they'd all respond the same way.
Well, could I imagine for some females, or would many females do that?
Well,
is the next question.
In this age group, in like the 20 to 25s, you would be surprised.
Well, I'm not sure I would. So maybe it's an age
fair
thing,
enough.
right? Maybe it's an age thing.
Yeah.
Also, it depends on where you're at. Maybe there would be a certain amount of the population for whom that's true, but I would also say that when it really comes down to it, it would probably be less than you would at first expect.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do live in Florida, and pretty much almost everyone that I know is a college student.
What are the standards there?
All I gotta say is don't go to FSU. Because the standards are on the floor with all the cigarette butts.
So we talked a little bit about this sort of subject with Dhammarato on Sunday's Sangha call, and he had an interesting thing that he said, just one phrase, which is I like it, but I don't want it. Is a good thing to keep in mind, just as a thing that instead of like trying to suppress, but just to acknowledge that. He gave a story of Ajahn Sumedho, and Ajahn Chah went to him when there were a bunch of women visiting the monastery, and he was like, "Hey, what do you think about them?" And Ajahn Sumedho was like, "I like it, but I don't want it." And yeah, it's just about like seeing the you know, like seeing into it truly, right? And yeah, so
very wise. Very wise.
It relates to practice a lot. I think it's interesting being in a relationship because it brings up stuff a lot of times that on your own just don't come up.
Yeah.
That's one of the most interesting things for me about being in a relationship. And yeah.
Fertile ground. Yeah, with the wanting comes the karma. Right?
Yeah.
Liking is karma free.
Wanting is not.
Yeah. After the wanting soon comes the getting.
Mm-hmm. And the one
I think
thing
that's part of it, right? Is that the process happens so fast, right?
Yeah,
the process
and the
between
cycle restarts.
Wanting, liking, clinging happens so fast. If we're not aware of the process, that it all feels blended into one mental action, right? One thing.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the tricky part right there is, can we slow it down to notice the different steps and stages and halt it before it becomes into the karmic stuff.
Yeah, what a great way of halting is just enjoying the liking. So liking is enough. Getting a good buzz off the liking. I don't have to go grab it.
I'll try to keep that in mind.
Well, you're on hard mode.
Yeah.
FSU.
Oh no, I don't go to FSU. That's too much for me.
What's FSU?
Florida State University. It's one of the state colleges here. And basically people just, they eat, sleep, and breathe to get fucked up there. Like, it's insane. Like, don't get me wrong, it's definitely fun to go like visit, but I can't imagine like anyone who'd actually want to live there.
Well, college campuses aren't for living on in any permanent sense, are they? It's
yeah.
Get in, have your fun, and get out.
Yeah, no, I went there for the 4th of July.
In some ways, I think this is kind of like the carrot and the stick thing that Dhammarato gives for us of like, so you become an adult apparently at age 18, and then you get to like have all this fun, and you're like promised like, okay, now you're an adult, and like life is going to just be fun, and then like, yeah, I don't know, to me, I can really see it as from the outside now of like, wow, it's really like, you know, kind of conditioning us in a certain way, like this whole system of going to college there and everything that it does to people.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Social pressure is immense, right?
Yeah, and it's considered like a prestigious school. So, you know, like parents want their kids going there and stuff. You know, they tell other parents about it and they're like, ooh. You know, like it carries some significance to some people to be able to say that they go there. And, you know, they think that by participating in this lifestyle that they eventually get dragged into, that they're like being cool or something. Because
Ron's cool for completely different reasons.
Yeah, it's just, you know, what I've come to see is that for most people, it starts as a pastime simply because it's the only thing that you can do there. And then it just kind of turns into a habit and an escape. You know, it's like what we were talking about earlier about pattern recognition.
Mm.
You know, when you do something so much on a day-to-day basis, it starts to feel weird when you don't do that thing.
Right. Right, hence you've got a wonderful practice running and you don't need all the cool points that come into FSU.
Don't get me wrong, I'll still go and visit.
Sorry?
Don't get me wrong, I'll still go and visit.
Sorry, what? Go and visit?
Yeah, every once in a while. Can't hurt.
You go and visit?
Yeah, every once in a while.
Do you not have to be on campus all that often?
Well, no. My friends all live off campus, and then all like the bars and stuff are also off campus.
Okay.
So campus is mainly just for,
It's a community, right?
Yeah, the campus is mainly just for like the actual like classes, and the freshmen live on the dorms sometimes, or most of the time.
Yeah, you go to uni for classes.
Yeah. It's a struggle.
I've forgotten what you're studying, Ron.
Finance.
Right, yeah, okay. A wise choice. If you're going to do the worldly thing, I mean, you might as well do it. Right?
Yeah. We'll see.
Head right into the fire.
Yeah.
But I mean, finance can lead to a lot of different things. It's like, I mean, I was an economics major and had like finance as a minor. So like, you know, it's useful for almost any aspect of life that you're gonna go into after this. You're always gonna have to do like accounting. You know, it's just a useful skill.
Like, I don't even know necessarily how much I'm going to be using the degree, but I know it can't hurt to have. And my parents are also very strongly insisting that I get a formal education, so who am I to argue?
Suck a nice billion out and then be a philanthropist. How about that?
Sounds like a plan. And I'll make a huge donation to the Sangha UK in the process.
There you go. We'll all dine out, Ron.
We're gonna finance a retreat where we all can attend.
Yeah. I just need to copy Nancy Pelosi's trading plan for a few months, and then I got us.
Very wise. Very wise.
I mean, if we're going to talk about it, it's actually pretty crazy. Like, so many Congress, like, men and politicians have outperformed the S&P 500 in the last year.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. And S&P was up 30% in 2021, I think, which is crazy.
Yeah. And the politicians were up even more.
Yeah, like
I mean,
multiply it.
There's some graphs that are like hilarious. Like right before the COVID crash, that there's like a massive sell-off from the senators. It's like a week before, and you're like, I mean, it's such insider trading. I mean, it's totally crazy.
So, Austin Scott, he's in Congress, and he outperformed the S&P 500 by about 5 times, maybe more.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that can be a statistical anomaly. It's good to look at, like, I mean, a 10-year period is what you really need to look at. And over a 10-year period, they're also crushing the S&P 500. But yeah,
of course.
And
the thing is, all their trades are public.
Yeah.
So just pick a horse, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a joke that they should make a mutual fund that just follows the Congress people's picks, and it really isn't like a joke. Like somebody should actually start that mutual fund where they follow their picks.
Yeah,
be done.
But it also gets into like the sort of like harmlessness thing too, because like I used to invest in the stock market, and I actually choose not to do it because I just don't really I just have sort of like moral objections to it personally because of the companies that you're having to invest in and like what they're doing. It's really hard to find people who run companies that are actually doing it with this sense of like non-ill will towards
I don't know. I've
others.
Just come to find I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've come to find that I guess the most difficult part about it is that if you start day trading, it's like crack. It's so addicting.
Yeah, see, I always did.
It's like you just play a game on your phone. No, I started getting really into options, and I got into like day trades and swing trades in the beginning, but now I want to start like buying shares and leveraging calls out.
See, that's just gambling. I mean, I can teach you how to play poker too. You know, I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's gambling when you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. I mean, I was a professional poker player for a long time, and it's the same skill set, you know, of doing those things. It's a psychology thing. So you're not really investing in the companies at that point.
No, you're not. You're just kind of piggybacking off of them to make yourself more money.
But I still think it's good to look at like what it's doing to ourselves. Like I just heard a talk from a monk who was talking about this in terms of the news, and he was like, go ahead and participate in politics, do whatever, but just have an awareness of like, how is this affecting like my heart, you know? Like when I read this news story, how does it feel for me, you know?
Yeah, there's a term I recently learned that you guys probably already know called doom scrolling. Doom scrolling, right? And I think that ties in with what you're saying. And I want to mention briefly what you were just mentioning about what it does as far as producing anxiety. I've got a lot of firsthand accounts of the Koreans that I speak with on a nearly daily basis, and nearly all of them are involved in the stock market because of the housing is so expensive. They're desperate to find a way to supplement their income. And, you know, when we get into it and talk about how many times per hour that they check their phone and why, you know, it's all about stocks. It's all about
that. Yeah, I'm telling you, so when you're day trading, it's like crap.
Yeah, even if I had no moral or ethical objections to companies investing in companies, I still wouldn't be sure that I would be able to resist the urge to see how I was doing, how my portfolio was doing. So I just leave that alone personally. I just leave it all alone.
Well, I mean, becoming a long-term investor, it's a skill that you have to develop of just like, you know, you just don't look, you know. I mean,
yeah, but the thing is, there's a difference between investing and actively trading. That's the thing. You know, like investing, it's not a form of income. It's where you put the income that you've acquired. But actively trading is within itself a source of income. So if you're good at it, that could replace, say, a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, but this is this sort of like holding the carrot out thing that we're talking about, because like it sounds really good on paper, but there's a really good saying about poker that relates here, and poker's a really what is it? It's an easy way to make a hard living. Is what it is, and that's what it is, because like, I mean, the number of people that I know that are involved in trading that have problems with cocaine, like don't maintain relationships very well, have problems with greed, you know. I think this gets into like right livelihood, and like it's important, I think, to choose something that like has some sort of I don't know, just it's a hard balance too, right? Because you need to make enough money to be able to, you know, support yourself, but how much is enough? And yeah.
And can we do it wholesomely? Is it the case that perfect morality makes no profit? That sounds a bit hard line, doesn't it? Or is it the case that we look at our surroundings and we say, well, this is where I kind of popped up and there's this requirement?
I mean, I think there's plenty of people that have examples of professions and working in areas. I mean, you're what you're doing. I mean, you're teaching people drums, you know. I mean, that's pretty wholesome.
It's wholesome.
Like,
yeah, it's very fulfilling.
It is fulfilling. There's always the question of, you know, I set my own rates though. Right?
Yeah, and
I
you
just
know, I'm
put them
prepared
up
for the fact that I might be a soulless investor at heart, or not at heart, at surface value, but fulfillment within itself is an illusion, and I guess that's
Well, I can see a way in which day trading might turn out to be something.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily be day trading, but it would be like shorter term, and I just think a big benefit of it is that it gives you freedom, essentially, if you're able to do it in a profitable way.
But this is what I'm talking about. This is the carrot that they're holding up for you. And as somebody who went down this path about your age, where I was making a ton of money, and was like thinking that it was so great, and I would just make enough money and then I could be happy. You know, this is like the thing to remember is like, you know, how much is enough, and is there a different way to do it? Because is there a different way to be satisfied now and realize that there's no amount of money that you can make that will like be like secure and safe for all
of course
time.
Not, but I still need to support myself.
Yeah, but you don't need very much, to be honest. Like, yeah, exactly, as somebody who's lived at both extremes. Yeah. Yeah, but I just think that like it can be risky, like going for a profession that's just like all money, you know, like that's it, because it's not very fulfilling, you know, in itself. I mean, I don't know. I still have friends that play poker, and like they justify it in their own ways and stuff, but I would say it's similar to investing. And yeah, just at the end of the day, looking at like what we're doing on a daily basis is having some effect on ourselves long term. But I don't know if anybody else's thoughts here.
I'm actually curious as I'm listening to you speak. I wonder what amount of day trading over a long period one might have to do just to take care of the basics. Because
the thing is,
most folks who get into it are thinking, I want to get that sweet million, right?
Well, yeah, you see, the thing is, that mentality is exactly why 90% of people who try fail.
Because they're looking for the big bucks.
Exactly. They're trying to get rich quick. Now, see, right. I'm fully aware of the fact that, you know, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So, you know, I'm researching as much as I can. I'm, you know, watching all the right YouTube videos. I'm buying these books. I literally bought a 1,000-page textbook on options trading. And I got another book on like psychology of investing, which is a super important thing. You know, I'm gonna make sure that if I head into it, I head into it right.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's
at the end
like
of the day,
it's interesting, but just be aware of like the effect. I don't know. I'm just saying this as somebody who's done this. You know, like just be aware of the effect that it has on you, because like how much is enough? Like I could literally I could play poker like 2 or 3 hours a week and I would make a healthy living. And because it has such a negative impact on me as a person, that those 2 or 3 hours are not worth it. And that's just the reality of it, you know, for that specific thing. It's a more extreme example of it because but the emotions are still the same, because like it's hard on your heart. Like the first time you lose a like really like a lot of money, you're gonna like really struggle to sleep, you know, and win a lot of money. It creates an imbalance in your system, right? This highs and lows. Yeah, in the long run, your graph goes like this. The same with investing, you know, and like, but in the short run, like, what effect is it having on you? Like, if your goal in life is to be a more caring, compassionate person, like, is this leading to those goals? Is there some other thing that could lead to this same thing? What is it in me that's so scared of working something for less money for more hours? Like that, like why, like, what is this like unenjoyable thing? Can I find some like joy in that too? You know? Yeah, those are just some ideas.
No, I feel, but it's like I said, you know, it's the utility that it offers me. You know, I get to work less and make more. You know, I have more time to myself, and honestly, I actually don't mind the action of it at all. Like, I think it's fun.
Well, the homeless guy in the street also has a lot of time, you know, like he has a ton of time on his hands because he's, you know, especially in the United States when he just can go to a food bank and he has a lot of time. So this argument about free time, I don't know. I kind of am always like a little bit like, like I have a lot of friends that have
free time on top of being a productive member of society.
Like, ooh, that's homeless person. I don't know, but that's very judgmental and like, I mean, so you're clicking buttons on, like, you're physically clicking buttons on your computer and manipulating like finances, and we all know like the effects that this have. I would argue that the homeless person has like probably a lesser like bad impact compared to a trader that is, say, investing in McDonald's and oil companies and these sorts of huge multinational corporations, you know, that like, personally, I'd choose to be the homeless person, but you know, this is how I ended up becoming a farmer, you know, because that's
Ron, a question for you is, what would be your bottom line? Where, because you talk about freedom with having a lot of money, how much money or how much requisites do you need to be free? And then past that, you don't need anything else. What is that for you?
Okay, so look, my thing is, personally, for me, I don't really need much at all. You know, if I had $1 million, if I were given, like, let's say $1 million, $5 million right now, I would literally do the exact same thing that I do every single day. The only difference is I would buy myself a nice car because I like cars. So, you know, I would literally just buy myself a nice car and then I would keep on living life exactly the same as I do. I wouldn't actually need to spend any money on anything unless I were to, you know, find a nice girl, maybe have some children. And, you know, that's way later on in life.
I'd get a cabin in the middle of the woods.
So the bottom line then is a car and wife and children?
I mean, wife and children later on, like way later on in life. For now, it's basically just a car, and that's it. And then all the rest, I would just invest, put it into long-term accounts, crypto.
What is it about a car that drives you to it?
I just like cars. I like driving stick. I think it's a very interactive experience. Yeah, I like the adrenaline rush of driving fast, of course, but I think, you know, driving a manual car like that.
You should move to Europe. All the cars are manual in Europe.
Yeah, I know, and they have highways without speed limits. I was thinking.
Yeah, dog is there. The drivers in Germany are crazy.
Oh yeah, I know. Maybe I'll come visit you, dog. I want a German car too, so it works out.
Which one?
BMW.
Hook him up.
Yeah, BMW.
I'm a Beamer boy.
Yes, as a German, dog's handing out BMWs like cookies.
Yeah, you know me.
It's raining BMWs in Germany.
I've got like 2 or 3 in the bags with me, so I just can hand them out.
Hey, Ron.
I'll be there.
I feel like I can somewhat relate to what you're going through right now with wanting to do day trading stuff because I had a health insurance. I was selling health insurance for a while. And in the beginning there, I was selling it to older people that didn't have a lot of money. And so they couldn't get the really great, big, awesome insurance plans that employers usually offer. So, you know, we kind of would call these people and offer them these bottom of the barrel insurance plans and convince them that they're better than like Blue Cross Blue Shield. And
yeah,
I got pretty good at it. Not gonna lie, it was fun. But and Dan probably remembers this, but I remember very, 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 just like it was, just very clearly, like it was yesterday, feeling, even though I was successful at this and getting this money, it was like, well, wait a minute, what am I really doing here? And who is at the expense of my win? And you know, the one conversation that really got me one time was I was talking with this guy, and this wife said they just got in a car accident like a couple weeks ago, and he lost his job and everything, and they need insurance.
Wow.
Has like heart failure. And well, the shitty thing about insurance is that they didn't really have any other way. Like there wasn't anything else they could really do other than, you know, maybe like apply for unemployment or something. So at that point, the only thing I could do was sell him this insurance plan. The best thing for him to have one, but it was not good at all. And if he goes to a hospital again for his heart, they're going to probably have to apply for bankruptcy. And I like knew these things as I was selling these plans. And I remember Dan telling me once, he's like, you know, it just depends on what your priorities are. You know, right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. This is the job that's available to you. You just got it. You're doing good. Have you evaluated the amount of work it'll take to get another job? Do you want to get another job? You know, are you satisfied and comfortable with how it is right now? And then, you know, maybe when more options open up or the pandemic is over, you can take a look at what else you might want to do and take a break from that. But it's kind of like, you know, you're helping yourself out to the degree that is satisfying, that works for you. You know, you kind of got to like feel it out for yourself. But I would just say, like, I think what Joe is trying to say to you is just know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, look,
see what you're
this
doing.
This isn't something that I've been like considering doing. Like, I've been doing this for a while already, and
okay.
I've been learning. I've been learning a lot along the way. I personally enjoy it, and you know, speaking of what you said, I'm actually about to start working a sales job again soon. And, you know, I kind of don't mind the fact that what I'm doing doesn't necessarily give me fulfillment, because I feel like I'm learning to enjoy the present moment as it is so much more, that even if I'm mindlessly doing work, even if it's not fulfilling to myself in any way, shape, or form, I'm still able to enjoy what I'm experiencing.
For sure. Yeah. I don't know if that was the main argument here, like do something that fulfills you, or if it was actually know what your actions are and how they could contribute your own personal
I know.
Of like love and joy for yourself and for others. Because like, I mean, I quit the job. Long story short, I eventually quit because I realized, okay, I started selling Medicare Advantage plans to like people who were over the age of 55 and they were senile, and most of them had no idea what was going on to some degree or another. And my job was to basically manipulate the shit out of them to feel okay and at ease enough to, you know, give me their audible signature over the phone so that I'd get my at the end of the week. But you know, I just didn't want to do it anymore because I saw that it was just getting in the way of me feeling okay.
And if we do find ourselves in that situation, we can still realize that, like, within that situation, like you were saying, you're like, well, it's a pandemic and this is like what I have to do for right now. How can I make the best of it? You know, and like, is there a way that I can do this thing that maybe is having this effect on me, and still be able to, say, interact with people in a way at work that is light and friendly, and have freedom in that way. But yeah, but then, I mean, there's some things that this, like, and specifically with when you ask the question, why wouldn't I do that with poker? Because it's a completely individual pursuit, and there is no way to make it light and have freedom, and like it's just an ugly thing, you know. Like that's just the actual reality of what you're doing at the end of the day, you know. And I think maybe trading, you know, like if you worked, say, for a brokerage house or something like that, you enjoyed being around your coworkers, say that you were helping somebody as an investment advisor, helping people with their retirement to save for something. These are things that you can find a wholesome way to do it, I think, you know.
Well, I mean, I am getting a finance degree, so I might just end up doing something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that can definitely, like, be something that is both rewarding and, like, yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's always the mixed bag, right? Although it sounds, Joe, like you might be making a case for poker being entirely bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
You know, I was involved in private investigation for a while.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
I don't look really, but that was definitely one of those. I'm going to call that a hurting job. I wasn't feeling that I was contributing to the welfare of others, except for my boss's reputation and my, you know, bank account. And I could only withstand it for about a year and a half before I pretty much gave it up, because I saw the reactions of the people, usually, especially when it was a romantic situation, how they reacted to, you know, seeing these people that they would put their trust in, but didn't completely believe, you know, in these, you know, situations with others. And yeah, it was definitely a heartbreaking situation. And so, yeah, I ended up, and yeah, there were parts of it that were fun and exciting, and yeah, living in the moment, yada yada. But at the end, I was like, yeah, this is a terrible, for me personally, use of my time, and it's really not generating any kind of kindness at all. So I switched completely. Yeah.
Sounds like you're a teacher now, right?
Yep.
What do you do, Parker?
I video edit.
Ah, Parker just vibes.
And vibe.
I vibe edit.
That's why the Dhamma dude's video is so slick. Parker's a professional.
Yes. Video editing and like social media management, that sort of thing. Less like filmmaking, professional video editing, but those skills have kind of been developed by proxy.
Okay.
Rick, what do you teach?
Primarily, I teach English to folks, English language learners, adult English language learners. I've been doing this for over a decade, and I've had the good fortune of, you know, making a pretty, I wouldn't say huge, but decent living at it. And it definitely, you know, gives me a sense of meaning and purpose when I watch these students progress and get their economic, academic, or social goals based on, you know, the foundational skills that I'm able to impart to them as well. You know, and sometimes I even, you know, sneak a little Dharma in there, tiny bit here and there. I don't do it overtly at all, and I certainly don't make a big deal of it. But you know, it comes through, right? You part of the teaching thing is you're teaching like you're the channel through which this information is coming, so it's going to be affected or colored in that specific way. So it's almost unavoidable. Unless you're robotically doing it. Even teaching grammar you can put your own spin or flavor or preferences on it. Things like that. So yeah, it's unavoidable.
Well, you smile.
And I got, and I've got my friend.
Yeah.
I've got Lulu.
Oh, nice. Boring again.
But this is a good skill to develop. I think of like trying to slip the Dhamma into various life circumstances. Like I think it's fun to to try my best to, in any circumstance I find myself in, to be like, okay, where is this person at? How can I help them to ease their suffering?
Yeah,
and
I feel like there's kind of the like bodhisattva. A way to stick it in somewhere too.
And like you're saying, Rick, it's not always intentional. You're kind of doing it by example,
right?
And that's where
the best
real
way to
teaching comes in, and then language is just to supplement.
Nice.
Oh. Absolutely, because I tell them it's just the ladder to get them to what they want. The language is not the goal in itself. It's just through what they're trying to reach, and and sometimes honestly, a lot of these folks just need an impartial third person to listen to what's going on, because they can't confide in anyone else, and then you end up being the one that they talk to about their pressures and anxieties, etc. And there's the opening right there. Mm-hmm. There's the opening right there. Mm-hmm. It becomes very clear the types of things that I can say at that point. That's designed to help them, not change their attitudes or beliefs or anything, but to help. Yeah.
It's like the default state is selfishness being closed off, and now that you're open, it just you would have to do something intentional to close off, to not help the person.
Mm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right, and that's not why I'm in that position anyway. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities in these sort of like high traffic situations, especially when people, you are helping them lower that affective filter that makes them resist. Once they're down, once that's down, it's amazing what kind of things spills out. Yeah.
Damn, I've been sniping my shots.
And specifically with like language learning, I think that people like tend to beat themselves up a lot. I know that I do with learning languages, and that it can be an area where it's ripe for that. And also, it can be, if you're in a situation where you like have to learn it. Like for me in France, like I just get it all the time from people where they're like, oh my God, you've got to learn French. And it's kind of like just like shoved on you, And I'm sure the same happens for your English students if they have to learn it, where they're like told like your life is going to end if you don't learn this language, And
well,
like
I have
to like constantly remind myself that I'm perfectly functional and alive, not being 100% fluent in French,
Well, for them, a lot of it is about survival. They're in this new, the ones that come to Canada, for example, they're in this new culture, etc. Right? And one of the things that they often feel nervous about is when they're speaking to a native speaker, and the person isn't used to their accent. They're not prepared to hear that specific accent, and they get this big reaction like, "What?" And immediately the person who is speaking starts to doubt what they said, like all these words. And I tell my students, I want you to repeat it again and pretend like they don't understand English, because they're not ready for your accent. And then they say, oh, and then say it slowly, repeat yourself, and they'll hear it the second time. But I said, you're not saying anything wrong. They're just not ready to hear an accent. And they go, oh, and suddenly that understanding comes on, and they go, oh, so I'm not making any mistakes. Well, you're making a few, but not enough to inhibit the meaning transfer. And they go, oh, okay. So there's little things like that that help them to keep that confidence up, so they're willing
That's
to.
Helpful.
Yeah, I found it to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had really interesting interactions with people from other countries who have perhaps had an accent, and I've found that these kinds of interactions, they're fraught with anxiety a lot of the time. People don't want to ask twice. People certainly don't want to ask thrice. Where actually, with a little joy, it becomes this wonderful dance.
Right, and you kind of like, I give them permission. Like it's almost like they need someone to give them permission, and I can do that. I'm like, you have permission. I don't say that explicitly, but it's like, you have permission to make mistakes. You have permission to ask 2 times or 3 times or whatever. You have permission. It's okay.
Yeah. Who the hell said it shouldn't be? It's so...
well, maybe from their previous experiences, maybe their teachers in their countries have told them, if you make mistakes, you should just stop. You should quit. So who says? They tell themselves based on their own previous programming.
So I can say, having lived, having done this twice now, because it's my second time learning a language in a country, the problem that I see, mainly what occurs is our minds hold on to those few negative interactions that we have, and so of course there's gonna be some assholes that you just meet, and they're just going to you have to develop a tough skin for this, right? And 1 out of 100 people are just going to be they're just going to be a jerk to you, because you don't speak their language. And somehow those interactions stick in our minds like glue, and the other 99 interactions, or especially I had an awesome interaction today with somebody who was talking really, really slowly for me and was super nice, making sure I understood, switched to English when I needed to. And it's a constant needing to remember those interactions, because it is really painful, the other ones, when it just goes awful and the person just treats you like crap,
But I think it goes further back, though. I think we're looking at childhood again, when we all learned our first language, and it wasn't good enough for the parents sometimes, or it wasn't good enough for the teachers sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why those few harsh interactions we have learning a second or third language hurt so much. They're poking on an old wound.
Yeah, not constantly, but I periodically tell my students how proud I am of them for trying this, right? For going to a new country, to being brave enough to do this for whatever reason. And because no one really pats them on the back like that. No one recognizes how hard that is, very often, I guess. But I try and bring it up so they realize, and then they can remember it in themselves too. I was like, you know what? That's pretty amazing of me to have done all of this, and to keep going.
Yeah, I think I learned over the course of teaching, I'm probably giving thousands of % more praise now than I did when I started teaching. It's so necessary. Right? And I found actually there was a strong correlation with the degree to which I was willing to give praise to myself.
Mm-hmm.
As I learned to give more praise to myself, I was more able to give praise to my students. And then there was a correlation with how well they got at the drums.
What you just said, Rick, what you told and also the whole conversation reminded me of something that has happened to me, which to this day is in a way still funny, but also kind of tragic. When I lived in Finland, there was another volunteer there from France, and his English wasn't that good, and he had a heavy accent, and it got better over time. We didn't see each other that many times, but one of the first times we talked to each other, we spoke in English, and the first time he said something to me, I had no idea what he was saying. The second time, I kindly asked him to repeat it. I didn't have a clue the second time or the third time, and it happened over the course of a conversation. It happened a few times, and at some point I just had to be like, okay, man, and I was kind of laughing with one eye and also a bit sad, because I honestly, I did my best to try to understand it, but I had no idea what the fuck he was talking about.
Yeah, and it can turn into laughs in the moment.
Exactly.
Right, but I think as long as we're feeling like, oh, I mustn't upset this person, I mustn't ask more than once, I mustn't, we can crack some joke about our own language skills, or there tends to be a way, as long as we're feeling okay within ourselves, I found there tends to be a way to break that ice.
Yeah, I was pretty uncomfortable in that situation as well, because I could see that he was really trying and struggling, and I still had no clue what he was saying.
Yeah.
And that happens to me once every 3 classes, once every 3 days. Don't feel bad. I'm a teacher. Okay, you're going to have to say it. Try another way. Try and rearrange the words. Find another way to tell me. And the other students are like, who speak their native language. Oh, can't she just say it to me in the native, and I'll get, no, this is not about that. I need her to push through this barrier with me and to do it. I know it takes time, but this is what all of you have to be patient about. And then, sometimes it is very funny, but it's lighthearted, not mocking. So yeah, it happens. Yeah.
And then that's the skillful thing to do, Rick, is to hold the class in that way, such that someone is comfortable to approach that barrier, maybe even push through it, but for it to be a light-hearted thing, that's huge.
Yeah. So anyway,
I was gonna say, I think this can be a lot like Dhamma practice, in that, like, when we, when I'm first learning a language, it literally feels totally impossible, right? And like, you just have to kind of like laugh the whole time, because you're like, holy shit, like your mind, the negative critic is like, holy shit, I'm never gonna be able to do this, even though like you obviously are gonna be able to do this at some point, but like there's something within us that is like, this is totally impossible. And the same thing that happens with Dhamma practice. And like, if you just keep doing it and you just keep like following the steps, like if you have Rick as your teacher and you're like, hey, just keep doing this. This is what you got to do. Then one day you're like, holy crap, I'm talking the language, And like the same thing I've found with Dhamma practice, right? Where it's like, well, I'm not just like banging my head against the wall about this sati anymore. Like, it's just there, It just does it on its own. It's amazing,
Yeah, it's amazing to think, like, when you first encounter a language that you don't know anything about, you recognize it by certain sounds. You go, oh, that sounds like Chinese, but you don't know any of the words, so it has a specific sound. Or, oh, that sounds like probably Portuguese, but you don't, it's really interesting, that moment of, you can recognize the language, you know what it is, but you have no idea what the words are. But then later, as you start to study it, the sounds then become words, which then become meaning. And that's really a fascinating process. And I often wonder, for someone whose English is not their first language, what sounds do they hear when they first hear English? Like what repeated noises do they associate with English? Because by the time I can ask them that question, it's too late. They already understand the words.
Right.
I had French when I was a child. I was really hi, by the way.
Hello.
Don't know me. So as a child, I obviously didn't understand French at all, and I was really good at faking it. So people who also didn't understand French would think I was speaking French, because I was imitating the sounds.
Yes, right.
Now I had French in school, so I know enough to not be able to do that anymore. Although
exactly.
I also can't speak French fluently because my Spanish kind of ruined my French.
Mine too.
That's just close. And now I always like my picture for that is, or my image is that like the Roman languages are like in the same street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the same part of the forest. Yeah.
So and my Spanish pad on the French, like vocabulary and stuff, and a little bit on the English, like coming from Latin, all the origins that are Latin origins. But so now always when I try to speak French, just Spanish comes out. Or when I'm in Italy, for example, and I hear Italian, I just speak Spanish. It's like it activates, because Spanish is now the most dominant one where I'm like fluent in. So like whenever I go into that street, like the Roman languages, I just speak Spanish. But I wanted to add something to what Dan said before, because like with the praise, I think we like completely underestimate in like the various, at least in the education system in Germany, how powerful praise is. Like the system is built on like finding mistakes and what's the opposite of praise?
Criticism.
Yeah, it's like it's always about what's not good enough yet, and it's hardly ever like focused on what is already there, like the resources and what is already working like intuitively right. And I have a piano teacher. I like started piano very late, like just a few years ago, and like just I don't know, like very recently for real, like with a little more discipline. And I found my like the perfect teacher for me, because he's praising so much. Any other teacher who would not do this and who would criticize more, obviously he also says like criticize me, but it doesn't feel like criticism. Like,
it's constructive. It's constructive.
More on what is already working, like that. I don't know. The hand is like amazing, and like he's doing like a little overdoing it. So I laugh because like obviously I'm not a genius like at the piano, but he does it in such a loving way, and I kind of get what he means, and then he actually says like things he sees that are right, and so that encourages me. Because, like I have like little trauma with music, so I had this mindset that I am absolutely not musically inclined. So if there would have been too much criticism, this little flame that it was like very fragile at the beginning, so it would have been just like crushed
out,
destroyed, and now it's like it's a beautiful fire, and
yes.
every time actually like often I come to piano lesson and I'm like really not in a good mood, because I don't know, Wednesday seems to be the drama day. But every time after the lesson I'm in such a better mood, because he has such a great energy and like focus on piano, and like that he really encourages me and is so proud of me. That's also like I'm very confused sometimes, but he seems to have so much fun at teaching me.
Yeah, so he sounds like a great teacher, and I see this all the time, that students tend to judge themselves by the best musician they've ever heard.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
A good teacher will judge you by you.
Yeah.
How you were in the last lesson.
Right? Like if it's a good teacher. Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
If it's a good teacher.
If it's a good teacher.
Unfortunately, a lot do it differently, but yeah.
Yeah, a bad teacher is grumpy that they don't have a student who's at a higher level of accomplishment. Well, the problem is for that teacher is until they're teaching Chick Corea, they're never going to be satisfied, and Chick's now dead. So
I sometimes will ask my students in the beginning, if it's like a class full, I say, what are your expectations of your teacher or of teachers? To get a general sense of that. you know. And it's interesting to hear, you know, some of their responses. Say, okay, these are your expectations, and then of course there's a big laugh. I'm like, okay, well I've checked all those boxes.
Yeah, I might play with that one, Rick. That sounds very interesting.
Because really, we're not talking about, you know, I mean, back to standards again, right? I mean, they're pretty moderate what we're talking about here, what the kind of expectations are. So anyway.
Thank you for sharing, Nora. It was delightful to hear about your piano teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually today, so I'm still
great.
in the energy. Yeah. And I really had not a good start into the day, so it was actually like really
great.
I didn't want to go, but I knew I would feel good afterwards.
Well, you've got a good excuse to go next week, because you can tell your teacher that you shared about your lessons with 2 teacher friends of yours, and they both said he sounds like a great teacher.
Yeah. Absolutely. I actually also taught, like, I wanted to add to Rick, I taught German to foreign students. And I, like, some parts of it I really loved, but in the end, like, I quit because I couldn't stand, like, for a system, I couldn't stand behind or get behind, because it was so rigid. We were actually just prepping them for exams, and I didn't feel that at all. And it made me really sick doing that, because, and actually, like, in the last lesson, I just did it my way. I did kind of a more like an intercultural music project day, and that was the best lesson. Everybody loved it, but it's of course not prepping them for these kind of exams.
Yeah.
I'm just doing the intercultural music projects without this.
I spent time I teach drums in 2 secondary schools, so I go in as what in English is called a peripatetic teacher, a traveling teacher. So I don't go into the class. I go into one of the small practice rooms, and I do what I do in my own studio. I see students one-to-one.
Nice.
But all too often, as I'm walking past the music classroom, there's fireworks, kids not doing what the teacher wants them to do, and the teacher being frustrated because it's probably not what the teacher would be doing given the choice, but there they are disciplining the kids because they have to do this stuff because it's what's on the exam paper. Meanwhile, they could just be having a conversation about music.
Yeah, or just make music, like play music together, like jam,
listening to music, right? All those kids have got a favorite YouTube music video that they would love to share with the class, but no, that doesn't count as education.
That's so sad. Like, I mean, everything, like the most frustrating thing about education, I find, especially our educational systems, or at least ours, I can just speak for that one, like I know, is this, that we actually have brains who love to learn. Like, we have these, I think that's kind of
the learning machine. It's like sophisticated.
Other animals, that our brains kind of stay like childlike, so they can like grow and learn all life.
Unless it's stamped out of us.
That's right. I'll teach you to hate learning. I'll teach you to hate learning.
But how can you like develop an educational system that crushes this like intrinsic urge to learn? Like, our brains are made for learning. Like, this is what they want to do. Children are so curious. And
it took centuries to do that. It took centuries to accomplish that level of
like
crushing.
And it still only has varying degrees of success. Some kids will survive the process.
But survive.
Right, and will continue to learn on their own agenda to some degree. I mean, if we really broaden our definition of what learning is, you can't actually stop it happening. But it does. My favorite analogy for what schooling does is that in walks a beautiful, bright, colorful caterpillar, and out walks a man in a gray flannel suit.
Ouch.
That's how it's designed.
Totally.
And yet there are still butterflies. People do make it through, and maybe there's a process of cocooning again, and some folks will become that butterfly a little later on in life. School certainly isn't interested in butterflies.
No.
No, and this is
frustrating.
These whole like end of grade assessments is a huge money making scheme. Like, and this sounds very conspiratorial, and I don't really like to go in this direction often, but being in the system for a while myself, teaching in public school, I saw the whole sort of thing laid out, and how these I remember in my Master's of Education program, our statistics, like our assessment teacher said, if you guys really want to make some money, become a psychometrician. A psychometrician is a test creator. They make test questions. He said you could be making 80 grand a year starting salary compared to a pathetic 25 or 30 salary. He said, wow, so you mean the ones imparting the information make like 3 times, or like 1/3 of the amount of these test makers, these psychometricians? Absolutely. And it's like, if that's what we value as a society, if people are paid what the society values, it's a really eye-opening shock. It was a shocker to me. I don't think anyone else in class even batted an eye, but I was like, my mouth probably dropped open. I'm like,
yeah.
Not because I was suddenly hungry for that, but I thought, wow, that really does put into perspective priorities, like social priorities, you know?
Yeah, we prioritize measurement because of fear. Tell me I'm okay. Tell me I'm doing good enough. Tell me I'm going to be all right when I go out into the big wide world.
You're going to be all right, Dan. You're going to be all right.
Yeah. Although what's really interesting about it, right, is that actually the kids are too young to even ask that question. So it's actually the parents who are saying, tell me my kid's going to be all right. Tell me my kid's not broken. Tell me my kid's not a fucking idiot. And destroy them in the process.
Well, you know, we see that the more competitive a society, the earlier and earlier parents start this formal education process. Again, I hate to keep bringing this up, but in Korea, you know, they're fighting, they're jockeying for position to get into like the #1 kindergarten, the #1 rated kindergarten. Why? Because it helps them track right on up into the university and right on into the, you know, Samsung or LG or the top performing companies. And because, I mean, soon they won't have this problem because they're having such a low birth rate relative to the cost of living. You know, it's like an economic child, like -1 child policy there. But it's really, and it's sad to see the parents reflect on it too. They're like, I would love for my child to have a childhood, but how are they going to compete otherwise if I don't enroll them in this today?
Which means they start work at 5 years old.
Exactly. And their entire young lives are spent for this like huge entrance exam that determines everything else. As far as the society is concerned, we know it doesn't determine everything else. But as far as the society goes, it does. And they believe that's what it is. So it's horrifying.
There's no alternative, right? I mean, I don't know. I guess Korea is a Buddhist country, right? Can they go to the monastery if they want?
Yeah,
there's always an alternative. Like no matter what, there even if it doesn't seem like there's an alternative, there is. I mean, I dropped out of high school. I gave up on it because, yeah. Yeah. And I was supposed to be a failure because I dropped out of high school, and I graduated from college by the time I was like 19. So.
Oh, so you failed at being a failure. Oh, I see how that works. I was supposed to be a failure, but I failed at that.
But did you fail then?
So negative times a negative.
Go ahead, Alex.
Hey guys, I just was wondering if any of you had some input, but what I've noticed has come up for me lately is like this kind of just general disinterest in everything practice. And well, so I haven't really been practicing. I haven't really been smiling and breathing and enjoying my breaths. I've just been swimming in dukkha land.
Are you interested in disinterest?
Interested in disinterest. Maybe. I don't know. You kind of stopped me in my tracks there. I'm not really sure.
Interesting enough to talk about, right?
Yeah. I mean, up to a few hours ago, I was calling it depressed. But I don't know if it's actually depressed as much as it is more just a general disinterest or lack of enthusiasm for anything. A lot of times when things aren't going well practice-wise, I would want to like kind of nip that in the bud and reach out and be like, okay, well, how can I practice better? What can I do now? But I feel like there's not really anything anyone's going to tell me that's different at this point.
Well, good. We went through it all so thoroughly in our last call, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I think perhaps you've finally reached the point where you see that there's nothing more to say. It's practice or don't practice.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. Feels like a shitty ending.
Enlightenment is the ego's ultimate disappointment, said Chosen Trungpa.
I agree with that too.
Thou shalt know the truth,
it's not
and
ending,
the truth
and
shall
now
set
that
you
like
free, but it'll piss you off first.
That one too.
What was that?
Thou shalt know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
Yep.
Heard that one a lot too.
We've been getting some smiles out of you tonight, Alex. I've seen you.
I know.
I know this sounds really simplistic, and you probably heard this a bunch, but yeah, I just do it unmotivated. I do it anyway. Sometimes I'm not motivated to brush my teeth, but I do it anyway. I'm sometimes not motivated to take a shower, but I just do it anyway. I just sit and I'm unmotivated, and when I'm done, I'm unmotivated. But I do it. For me, it's just a matter of that's part of living now at this point. That practice is so, I don't know, kind of ingrained that I don't ever consider even unmotivated, just like, oh, I'm not going to do it today. I mean, I don't know how else to say, but I just do it unmotivated some days, and some days I'm motivated. Some days you can't keep me like, I want to do it 3 times, but at very least I do it once, because it's just like, it's like maintenance for me. It's just like, I would never consider not, doing certain cleanliness activities. I would never consider, not eating for the day. I would never even, it doesn't even cross my mind anymore to not sit, So I mean, I don't know how helpful that is, but I just do it unmotivated and know the unmotivation feeling just passes. It just passes, and it'll come back, and it'll pass again, on and on and on and on. Just like plaque. Just like plaque on your teeth. That stuff just keeps coming back, man. You're going to brush it, and it keeps coming back.
That makes sense.
One sense of the word, that motivation is dukkha in the sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just kind of generally unmotivated. But the thing is, it's like before I started this practice at all, I didn't even really think about motivation. Motivation never occurred to me at all, actually. I was just intrinsically motivated, I guess, to allow things.
You were doing a less deliberate practice.
A less deliberate practice, yeah. And I mean, even when it came to like work and stuff like that, I didn't need to motivate myself to, I just worked because obviously like I want to make money, so I'm going to work. But it has become this deliberate practice has kind of become like that, kind of like a burden, to be honest with you.
If it's a burden, it's not practice.
Well, all right.
Was that laugh, that smile just a minute ago, was that a burden? Is that smile right now a burden?
No.
Also, I just wanted to say that, like, it's kind of like you've opened the bottle on the genie and you can't really put it back down now. And like sometimes, like, I point to my practice, I've been like, had this thought like, shit, I wish I wouldn't have like run into Buddhism because this thought has occurred before, but it's kind of a silly thought, and it's working on its own, like within your consciousness, like out of your control. And so what you're getting at before, where you're like, I mean, things were just happening, I was just motivated, I just was. Well, I mean, because you were like living like most people do, which is like just in ignorance of like what's actually going on. So you've gotten a taste of it now, and it's gonna just keep going on its own. And one day you're gonna just like, but not when, I mean, whenever you get it again, it'll just, when the conditions arise and you remember, it'll come back, because that's just how it works, and I just say this as a person who, like, I tried to shove the genie down the bottle again for like 3 years, where I was like, fuck this, I'm not going to think about practice at all for like 3 years. And then like I sat again after a break of 3 years of literally never sitting. And I was like, oh my God, I still remember how to do this. Wow, this is actually kind of pleasant. Like, why wasn't I doing this before, And yeah, so that's just my experience that I can share a little bit.
And that's a really powerful compass that you've reminded us all of, Joe, which is that if it's a burden, that's not the practice. If what you're doing is experienced as a burden, then what you've got there is evidence that whatever you're doing right now is in the wrong direction. That's dukkha. So good news, you just learned something.
Now you're practicing.
Yeah.
Yes, the practice is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. So if it's not good, it's not anywhere. You're not practicing. And oftentimes that's a concept of something that, you should be doing. I should be practicing. Oh, I don't want to practice. Oh, practice isn't working. If we're creating concepts like that, we're not actually dealing with the reality of right now.
That's really frustrating, because I feel like at least I've been doing everything Dhammarato and Dan and you guys have been saying is like correct practice.
But if it's feeling hard, then there's something missing,
or something extra.
Yeah, and it's like if you're feeling sad, it's the same thing if you're feeling sadness. I was meditating with a friend for a while, and like we had a daily practice together, and they were crying like almost every sit. And like eventually, like I had to sit down and be like, hey, like there must be like something really wrong going on here, because like, you know, and it turned out that there was just something that like just wasn't clicking correctly there, because it shouldn't feel like that. It should be something fun and light, you know, like we've got enough burdens in life. We don't need to create like a new one for ourselves, right? Like if it's not fun, like then don't do it, you know, like if it's not enjoyable, don't do it.
Alex, try smiling. Just like smile all the time, and then the smiling will like make pleasant sensations in your face, and you can sort of use that to like jumpstart the PT Sukha. That's like when I'm in the call, sometimes I'll just like smile, and sort of like it makes like a feedback loop where I become happier because I'm smiling, and then I smile more because I'm happier, and I like smile a lot, and that can help me jumpstart it.
Works the same way with laughter. In the beginning, it's very, very silly, but then you laugh because it's so silly. And then it becomes real afterwards.
You see, brother, this smile right now, I think you perhaps wouldn't count. You feel like you have to do something to earn a smile, am I correct? Does that sound accurate? Yes, you smiled when Rick brought his green thing up, but that doesn't count.
Lulu.
Sorry,
yeah,
Lulu.
Well, I guess it counts. It's just that like it's just that it goes into that same general disinterest or disenthusiasm, upset.
But that's something else.
Take it till you make it.
the what comes next is something else. So there's a smile. Can you just enjoy that smile? Can you acknowledge that as a success? You brought yourself here to Sangha because you know it's what's best for you, even though you say you're disinterested.
That's true. You did dial in. You did accept the call. That's good.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know that the Dhamma is what's best for you. Even though there's these sensations of disinterest, still you put yourself here because you know that this is where the solution is to be found. And so but I haven't got the solution. But you do. The solution is to be here and smile. And forget that thought that comes next, which is, oh, but I only smiled 9 times.
I need permission to smile first. No, you don't. Yeah. You can just go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I find that there's a lot of resistance to acknowledging anything as a success still, and it's like
we went deep on that the other night, didn't we? And we
feels
found resolution.
fake.
But
Yeah,
we found resolution to that. We went right to the bottom of that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I think it was something to do with that. There's like 2 Alexes. You could argue there's 2 Alexes. The one that is arguing that the success is really like suffering, and then there's the other one that's arguing that that's acknowledging your success.
You were breaking up a little bit.
You were saying that there's 2 Alexes. One secretly wants to suffer, and that suffering, like that Alex gets to win, that he's succeeding. But then there's the other Alex that genuinely wants to acknowledge his successes and win that way, but that Alex is being overshadowed by the.
We were talking about how there is a certain kind of payoff to dukkha. There's a payoff to all of our behaviors, otherwise we wouldn't do them. But there's delusion in our ideas about those payoffs. And this is all, we're back in social conditioning again. And so we can have the experience that we're at odds with ourselves, which is why you find yourself in the ditch, and yet also wanting to be out of the ditch. And it is just always going to come down to
I think what everybody's trying to point out too is like, it doesn't have to be so serious, right? Like just because you're an adult, it doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be like this hardcore like studying thing, you know, like at the bottom of it, it's all really hilarious, you know, like all of our experience that we're involved in is extremely hilarious, and us interacting together, and like it's almost like it feels like we're going to get to the point where we've told you so many times the same thing in like different ways that you're at one point going to be like, oh my God, this is so funny, because none of it helps at all. Like, this is all so hilarious. Like, you know, because yeah, there is no other way to say it really, besides like the millions of ways that everybody's tried to explain it.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Zen guys again, right? Beat themselves over the head with the koan until they just throw their hands in the air and say, well, it's all fucked. What a joke.
I like your question in the beginning, like, are you interested in disinterest? Are you attached to your disinterest? Why are you attached to disinterest, being disinterested? Oh, I have to be disinterested. Why do you have to be disinterested?
Because if we can get interested in disinterest, well, now we're interested again.
That's right. It pops you out.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out, Alex, if what you're saying is true, that it's an actual like general disinterest, where if what you're saying, what you said in the beginning, like disinterested in everything, if that's true, then it doesn't matter what you do. So why not practice if it's all the same?
Yeah, if everything's equal, might as well. Might as well. Literally doesn't matter.
Well, welcome to the restaurant of samsara. Today we're serving dukkha. Which kind of dukkha do you want to have today?
Could I have dukkha with a side of dukkha? Extra dukkha?
Yeah.
A lot of the disinterest you were talking about, I think in the text chat, you might have said TV, and other things that people can get disinterested are cars or whatever material things. That's worth congratulating yourself that you're finally disinterested in those things. That's wisdom. That there's a lot of marketing, there's a lot of trying to sell that these things are worth being interested in, and when you can see through that to know that it's really not worth being interested in, that's a very big step.
No, that's true, and I getting a little. I saw through that a year and a half ago. I did
through it again.
Keep seeing through it.
And I mean, I think everybody has at some point, but at the same time, like there's a little bit of attachment, right? Like for me, I know that there are times where like I wish that I could have total like disinterest in certain things, right? Because you're just seeing that this is like an unhealthy attachment there. So it's like I mean we know that you've seen that. Everybody's seen that. I mean a 5-year-old has seen like this at some point, right? Like it's a natural thing to see that like, oh, money does not equal happiness. Like everybody's seen that, right?
Well, I mean, I think what I'm seeing now is like I think if I had to put the words with why, because this stuff is coming up, right? Like, so it's just as valid as what you guys are saying. Like,
right.
It's just as valid, like smiling and practicing and noticing this isn't a burden and it doesn't have to be hard work is just as valid as seeing my discontent with everything right now. And I think what it's pointing to for me is I don't want to keep doing some stupid practice just so that there's this Alex that can feel okay and feel good.
Don't have to.
It's just like, it's just annoying. Like,
okay.
I just don't, I'm disinterested in the Alex itself. Like the car that has been being sold on those banners on the highways, that's the Alex in my mind. Like I don't want to go anywhere near that anymore. I don't care.
And the thing is, I think like almost everybody in this chat has probably been at a similar point before. I can think of a point where I was at, like almost exactly saying your exact words. And so when you're hearing advice from other people, it's like, it's not that you are like individual or unique or something like that, right? And you can see that yourself because you're like, wait a minute, like this Alex that I'm making up right now, like, you know, it's not you're not the only person that's having this happen to, right? That I'm sure that there are other people in the chat that have had this happen, and they're just not in that state right now, but they're giving you tips for what to do, being like, hey, I know this roadmap, I've been there before, you should try this, you know? And so it's like, but it's just a map. It's like, try it. You got to try it for yourself. You know, if you don't think it's fun, then just don't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you don't have to do this, brother. Maybe you feel like you do. Maybe you feel that you have to practice. Maybe that's what's making it feel so heavy.
Yeah. But it's like,
try some different practice. I mean, there's like a million Buddhist teachers out there, right? I know it's like heresy to like look outside, but like try something different, you know? Like
I recommended the same earlier today. Because sometimes it moves us along, you know, and we can sit and talk about the merit of various practices till we're blue in the face. What matters is what works.
Right.
I have
so like try some like Tibetan like open to everything for a little while, or go stare at the water for a while. Like do open sky.
Do some Tumo. Tumo.
Yeah, Tumo. There you go.
Do some Tumo.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that I think the problem is that what I want to have happen, I can't. I'm not like, I don't know. I guess I'm not advanced enough as a practitioner for it to happen. To be completely detached from an Alex that feels this way and wants this, and like to be completely detached from that, right? Which I think is what enlightenment is. I was talking with Dan the other day, and I was saying how like what I would, if there were two choices I could have, the Alex that is there, you know, wondering about whether or not he's being criticized and is making all these evaluations and analyses about that, or the guy that's just there and that person is just saying whatever, this person is just saying whatever, and there's no self to be concerned about, a self being seen as some other kind of self or this self or that self. It's just all what's happening, and there's no problem. There's nothing going on. There's no concerns. And
high standard.
But you're conceptualizing what it's like instead of just trying for yourself, right? It's like you're coming up with an idea of what you think it would be like based on other people's descriptions. But I want to hear your description of what it's like because it's within your power. And
I don't think that's actually based on other people's descriptions. I think that's something that I've actually experienced. I just it's just been an experience. It has divided.
Yeah, and if we've had an experience like that, it can be seductive. I think we spoke about this, didn't we? How you seem to have started to create dukkha around the practice itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think the phrase came up, damned if you do and damned if you don't. And so the appropriate thing to do is to drop everything.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That I also have this, I really feel you on this one, because I also have this mechanism that kind of jumps on everything. Like I find things that do me well, like that are healthy for me, that are originally fun and light and beautiful. But then I say that I ritualize them and say, okay, I do yoga every day, I meditate every day. And when I don't, then it's bad, or I have to do it now. And then it's now this perfect, like I have this expectation of myself. It's not a good day if you haven't done this and this and this and this. And it's like, it adds up. It's not, and it's not light anymore. It's not fun anymore. It's like, it's just a burden. It's like, I'm just creating dukkha around these in themselves beautiful activities. And so I also can't enjoy them anymore. And then they're also not healthy anymore, because they are attached to this very unhealthy attitude. Yeah. So I also then have to drop everything for a while to find like what's and also not the same rituals work in every phase. So like sometimes I just feel like, okay, this is not right now. I need to figure out now what works now. Could be very good.
It's exactly like that. It's like, I think this practice is probably actually great. It's just there's this self that I have that is in the way.
Exactly.
In the way of my own progress, of winning, of acknowledging success, of being free. It's just in the way, and it makes everything a problem.
Drop it.
Well, it's great that you see that. At least you see what the issue is, right? Like, that's like huge success, because like, you know, most people don't see that.
Yeah. So, bye, Rick.
Great see you, Rick. It was great seeing you again.
Bye, everybody. Have a good week. Bye.
If I could drop it, I would have dropped it.
Oh, but you can't. Like, we all can. I mean, like, you know, it's.
We're back to this. I know that contains frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I know. I've been there. I've done it. I've heard it all before.
Yeah.
But then again, we come to that head, heart, gut model. You know, in the head right now.
Oh yes, I'm feeling that so.
Yeah.
Too much.
Knowing in the head is great, but it's not the whole show.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what makes it so frustrating, because
how do I make it? What is the natural progression you're pointing to, Dan, that would allow me to experience more of the show then?
Allow me to demonstrate.
I've heard it all before.
Got you smiling though, huh?
Yes, I'm smiling.
But this doesn't count, does it?
It counts for right now.
You're not allowed to smile, Alex.
What else?
That's it. That's all that exists.
What else has this ever been about?
There's nothing else that exists, you know? Like, all the experiences that you have in your head that you're like really like stuck on that reality being possible, it doesn't exist right now, you know? It's just an experience. And the more that we like tell ourselves about those experiences, those big mind-blowing things, the more they get like blown out of proportion and written in new ways. And where like, yeah, because I can guarantee you when you were in the moment of whatever that moment was that you were referring to, like, I think the description that you gave us would be different than the description when you were there, right? And so like realizing this, that like there's literally only right now, like that's it, you know, it's all in our heads. It's like, it's it, you know. And I know it's hard. I mean, I've been there before. Like, I say it because like I want to help, because like, you know, I think we all do, because we've been there and we're like, fuck, I mean, it sucks, you know, like, because you know it's so clear that it's just awesome right now, you know? Like, that's it.
That's it. And I think you're looking for more than that, brother, and you're gonna be disappointed. As long as you're looking for more than what you just experienced right there. Then
see you, David.
Bye, DJ. Great to see you. Yeah, as long as you're looking for more than that experience that you just had that is good right now, you're bound to be disappointed.
Okay.
And that makes it all so much easier, because now you only have to think about one moment.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive to everything else, because like that's the thing that's so difficult about it, is that like the more you want it, the less it's going to like be there. Like this is just the natural thing of it, you know?
Yep.
Like Nora was talking about, everything we have, we kind of take it up as something you should do. I should do this, and what meditation practice is dropping those shoulds. So originally we take it up as something we should do, but the whole practice is when you're telling yourself you should do something, just change that thought to something that's more wholesome.
And it's mind-boggling, because I can see a part within me that actually wants disappointment or wants enthusiasm.
Good seeing.
And if there was like a magic button, okay, if I could push to do like, to have like complete freedom, or to be in this disenthusiastic state, I would just choose the complete freedom. But it's like, as much as I want to go further, as much as I want to heal and let go of things, there is like an opposite or equal reaction that says, no, you can't. You have to go at this pace. It's like there's something else controlling. Do you guys know what I mean? It feels like there's something else controlling this whole thing, no matter how much the angel or the all-seeing light within me sees how far this could go, or sees that this could go a whole nother way. There's like something else there that is controlling the whole show, and I can't do anything about it other than watch or complain about it.
Do you know the story about the Buddha under the rose apple tree?
No.
Not familiar with that one?
I'm going to leave you guys to it at this point and go see Debbie.
Okay.
She goes to sleep, but...
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dan.
Great to see you all. Love you guys. I'll catch you all next week. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.